Street Talk and other stuff, Mike. Mad Dog, Magnati. Thanks for tuning in today on this fine Monday morning in July. Glad to have you here. You know, I've got a good show today. Lots of stuff going on in our community, and the person I'm speaking with today is somebody that I highly love and respect, doing a great job here. And this is going to be a good show because this is important stuff. There's a lot going on. We as a community need to come together to help each other, and this is going to be an opportunity today a little bit. But I want you to stick around because I've got a good guest, I've got a good show, but Street Talk and other stuff. You stick around, we will be right back. So.
Settle in for summer savings on stressless furniture at Boswell's. Right now, get a $100 instant rebate for every $1,000 you spend on stressless recliners, sofas, and accessories. Plus, save $50 on stressless Laurel and Mint dining chairs or home office chairs. Shop Boswell's, 2915 Easy Street in Wenatchee.
Welcome to the summer of good. Good people, good taste, good vibes, and good, well, everything. When you're ready for some old-fashioned good, Abby's is your place. We've been celebrating summers around the P&W for over 60 years. At Abby's, good is a legendary tradition.
Holy pepperoni, Abby Man. It's the hometown hero bursting onto the scene this July at a special price, starring classic pepperoni, green peppers, and Italian sausage. One bite and wham. Don't miss the summer's biggest blockbuster. The hometown hero has arrived at Abby's.
Are you dealing with a pest or weed issue and you just don't know what to do?
We use the best pest control methods approved for areas with kids and pets.
Whether it's rats, mice, ants, or spiders,
or something else altogether,
we provide the coaching and solutions you're looking for.
And you can know that your dollars are supporting a local, family-owned and operated business.
Allow us to help you get back to living healthy and pest-free. Harvest Valley Pest Control.
Remember when you could afford to have fun on two wheels without breaking the bank? Maybe you started on a Honda Z50 or a Trail 70 or one of the most popular Hondas of all time, the Trail 90. Well, Honda and Doghouse Motorsports are making fun affordable again. Introducing the Honda Monkey, the Dax, and the new updated Trail 125, all featuring fuel-injected four-stroke engines with electric start. The best part of all, they are affordably priced under $5,000. Whether you're just getting started or you want to get back at it, Doghouse Motorsports has you covered.
Okay, thanks for coming back. I'm here with my friend, colleague for the former mentor, kind of supervisor, Heather Hobart Hill.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Heather is the executive director of Central Washington Veterans Counseling, where I was honored to work with you for 2 years, a few years ago. Loved it, kind of miss it. But tell us about yourself. You know, it's time for me to shut up and for you to talk.
So my name's Heather. I've been the owner of Central Washington Veterans Counseling since 2000, where we support primarily military veterans from all branches of the service, and we have several staff there that it's been our main goal and purpose to support veterans in transitioning into the civilian world.
Okay, now how about you personally? You're a wife, you're a mother, you are a former veteran yourself, and I thank you for your service.
Thank
you.
Very
much. You and your husband both were.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, joined the Army shortly around
9/11.
9/11, right?
Yes. After 9/11, we both joined. My career was ended short due to an injury, but my husband stayed in for 12 years and ended up being medically retired and had 2 combat deployments. So, and we've been married for 24 years this year.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
For you. You had 3 kids.
Yes, 3 kids.
A daughter who just graduated high school.
Absolutely. So I have one that graduated and one that was in kindergarten. So we've got a spread going on.
Love child, huh?
Bonus baby. Absolutely.
Where was your husband's name?
Colin.
Colin. Where was he deployed? It was the Sandbox Wars,
so
right?
he was a part of the Iraq invasion in 2003, and then he had another deployment in 2005 to Qatar, which he bounced from Qatar to Iraq and back.
Okay. All right. And this is Army, right?
Yes, Army.
Well, thank him too.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, so Tell us about your working with Central Washington Veterans Counseling. Tell us about the agency, what its goals are, what you started, how things have gone.
The agency was started in 2000 by a gentleman that had worked for the VA, and he had Wayne Ball, and he had negotiated to where we started the federal contract. And from that point on, we have been supporting veterans underneath the federal contracts and under the DVA through the state contracts up until this past week. On July 1, our federal contract ended, but we still continue to support veterans with our state contract.
Okay. All right. Now, this was always an issue. I remember when I was working there, well, I ended it about a year and a half ago.
Yes.
There was always some question about the contracts being...
Correct.
So...
Yes, there's always been a challenge with making sure that the contract is funded appropriately, and we've been doing a lot of advocacy. Starting in 2022, we started advocating with the legislature or local legislators to try to bring in a full-fledged vet center, because the demand in our area was exceeding our capacity as a small agency to meet the need for the veterans in our area.
Okay, but we do have a Veterans Administration office here. How much of that office is doing, you know, the behavioral and the mental health stuff that can I say our agency?
Yes, you can.
Please?
You can. We have a local community outpatient-based community clinic, which is the CBOC. That's our VA clinic. Unfortunately, they haven't had any therapists since 2023, but they do currently offer telehealth services. If a veteran were to go and ask their provider for mental health counseling, they refer them to mental health counseling over telehealth, or they can refer them to care in the community, which the closure of SHPA-WIC and Associates also kind of impacted that resource or access for veterans.
Were they handling veterans as well,
that
agency? Okay,
yes.
All right. So are there any other agencies besides yours, other than the Veterans Administration Center, that is serving veterans right now?
Yes, the Confluence Health as well as Columbia Valley Community Health also have care in the community contracts, so they as well. I'm not aware of any other small practices like myself or what SHPA-WIC and Associates were that has that kind of agreement either. Okay,
so about how many clients were you serving?
We were actively serving 66 clients on the federal contract. There was a total of 98 veterans that were still open on that contract, because it's not uncommon for somebody to discontinue services and then 3 to 6 months later for them to come back around. Call them boomerangers.
Okay. All right, now I'm getting some feedback. You know, I posted what shows I'm going to do every week and that kind of thing. And so people are coming back and they said, get it straight about what's exactly happening.
Right.
And I was asked not to spin this. And I really don't know what they mean by that, because you said something off camera that I want you to repeat again.
Right. I think it's important to note it's not a red issue and it's not a blue issue. It's a veterans issue.
Right.
And our attempt is just trying to advocate for the appropriate resources for veterans in Central Washington to have appropriate access, because we have a higher population density than other areas in the country. But in addition to that, we have had the uptick in violent crimes related to veterans since 2022.
Right. Okay. And I think that without talking about those specifically, most people will know what we're referencing. Okay. All right. So with this cut, and again, it's the federal contract. Okay. How is that affecting your state contract?
It is not affecting our state contract.
Okay. All right.
So the folks that were assigned or designated to the DVA contract are still fully supported. It's the folks that were on the federal contract, which are, in order to be eligible for that federal contract, you had to be a combat veteran. So they're by nature a higher risk population.
Right.
But I think it's important to note that nothing was cut, it was ended on the end of the contract cycle. So that's what has happened. So now there's the contract's ended. They're still expecting to put out a request for providers or an RFP, a contract for bid, which hopefully one of the people that I work with, his name is Robert Bates out of Bates Counseling and Associates, is intending on applying for that contract.
Okay, all right.
Which we had that in place about 6 months ago.
Okay, so you're applying for that contract as well?
No, I'm not.
You're not. Oh, okay.
No, I just want to do the work in the office. I do not want to manage and do the oversight anymore.
I see. Okay. All right. So I want to get back to this in a minute, but tell me how your agency works. I mean, if a person, or how it has been working,
So if a veteran were to contact my office and want to engage in services, depending on what their DD 214 says, that's their discharge paperwork when they exit the military, then we would assign them to whichever contract was appropriate. So if they're a combat vet, they're going to go on the federal contract.
Okay,
if they're not, or a dependent, then they go on the state contract.
Okay.
And those two primary pots of money or categories is how we've been supporting veterans in the community for the last 25 years.
Okay, so and then you say to one of your therapists, can you take another client?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What happens then?
Then we assign them to that therapist, and then they get set up for counseling within just a few days, usually
Right.
within a week.
And so what is the process they go through? Now this is common stuff for you. What the guy comes into the therapist's office.
Oh, like during the first appointment?
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a get to know you appointment,
Right.
and figuring out like where they're having difficulties either integrating into the civilian culture, or if they're having some difficulties with combat experiences, and then developing a treatment plan based on their need and what their goals are.
Okay, and we have to do something, or the therapist has to do something called a psychosocial within the first 3
visits. Yes.
Okay, what's the psychosocial?
That is a comprehensive intake assessment where it goes in like all the way back to childhood,
Sure.
from birth to dirt, as much as we can get, so where we can get that 1,000-mile view of the person to see if there's any other contributing factors. So they might be coming to the office presenting with nightmares related to a combat experience. However, that's been also complicated by early childhood trauma, so
Sure,
they can
exactly.
compound each other.
Yeah.
So that's why we do those intake assessments.
Okay, and that's pretty involved.
It is.
Okay. We talk about the childhood. We'd ask about issues with suicide, ideation, suicide, not just with them, but with people within their family.
Yes.
Okay.
Homicidal as well.
Sure, exactly. And I haven't never had anybody who said they were planning on. Never got there, but
which is great. Some of my Marines like to quote Mattis, and sometimes people who are military competent often misconstrue that as being homicidal.
No, you're talking about General Mad Dog Mattis, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I heard a story about him. Do you know he once killed 3 insurgents with a grenade?
Oh.
Then he pulled the pin and killed 7 more.
That sounds about right.
Do you know one time he was stopped for speeding? He let the cop go with a warning.
That all sounds accurate.
Okay. All right, but this psychosocial gets pretty deep. We talk about, stuff in their family. We talk about what their childhood was like. We ask them specifically the details of their military career.
Yes.
Involving what potential traumas they've experienced, and not all traumas came from combat.
Correct.
Did they?
No.
What other kind of stuff have you run across?
Man.
I mean, Heather, because I could give my stories here, but I want you to talk.
It's the whole gamut, whether it's living in a very significantly low-income household with very little parent supervision and trying to survive on their own in that way. It could be childhood physical or sexual abuse.
Sure.
It can be sexual assault in teens. The imagination is basically your landscape as far as other things that could be impacting an individual.
And then we go specifically through their military experience.
Yes,
and
sir.
And a lot of questions about what potential injury or traumatic experiences they could have gone through.
Right. And we assess for traumatic brain injury as well, which is more common with the generation of veterans from 2003 and on because of the IEDs and things that were used in warfare. But
you know what I found very interesting? My experience when I worked there was the number of veterans from Vietnam.
Yes.
You know, it's interesting. What I found was a lot of these guys, and this doesn't typify all of them, but a lot of them grew up in a responsible, men work hard, support their families, that type of thing.
Right.
They would get out of their experience in Vietnam, some of them saying they never thought they would come home, okay? And they lived, in their eyes, responsible lives.
Right.
And if you ask them, I'm not having any trouble.
Right.
But what would their families say?
Exactly. And that's one of the things that's really fun to talk to them about. We do have a Vietnam veteran group, and they would always say, I didn't know I had a problem, but everybody else did.
Yeah. Oh, I love those guys.
Yes.
I love them.
They're great. And one of the things that I find so remarkable about them, based on their welcoming home experience when they returned from Vietnam, they were so intentional about making sure that our generation of veterans from after the invasion on had a good welcoming home, so they didn't have the same experience. So that kind of compassion helped foster the community that we fortunately have now.
Yeah, I have found some of them, as a matter of fact, one of them specifically said, I never told anybody.
Yes.
I left it off job applications, never said anything about it, but what I love to see now is the guys in Safeway and around the community wearing
their
the hats that say Vietnam veteran, and I make it a point it drives my wife nuts, because I will walk halfway across the store to say to some guy, thank you for your service.
Right.
You know? So, but it's important to them.
Yes,
it's important.
It is, and it's a big part of their life and their identity, and they tried to ignore it for a long time because of stigma.
Yeah, they just, it's funny. I don't know how many of them said to me, look, it's been 60 years, why is this still bothering me? You know? And I said, well, you never talked about it. You know, you never told anybody. It's still part of who you are.
Well, and they were babies at the time, too. We're talking to 80-year-old men, but at 19, they were fighting in the jungle.
Exactly. Okay, talking with Heather Hobart Hill. She is the executive director and primary therapist. Is it okay if I say that? At Central Washington Veterans Counseling. This agency, very important. I loved it. Gave 2 years of my life there. Would still be there if it wasn't for some personal health issues at home. But we're going to talk more with Heather when we come back. But we're going to take a break. So Street Talk and other stuff, you stick around. We will be right back. So.
You trust the same doctor for your health and the same dentist for your smile. Trust Global Car Care to keep your vehicle running strong. We track your car's history so it gets the right care at the right time. With our 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on parts and labor, you'll drive away with confidence. Global Car Care, your automotive experts. We service all makes and models, but specialize in Sprinter vans, Mercedes, Audi, Volkswagen, and BMW. Call or visit us today.
Les Schwab changed the tire game more than 70 years ago. Today, we still believe you should get more from less. Like more hustle, less hassle. More of the best service around, less of the runaround. Because we include America's best tire warranty in every tire we sell. So you get more unbeatable warranty, less charging you extra. It's why we're more than proud to say, you get more from less.
There's no place like home, because home is where we're totally comfortable. It's where we can be ourselves and let our guards down. It's where we make memories, and we're always imagining new ways to keep it totally comfortable. Carrier, total comfort, totally happy.
Call Alpine Air Heating and Cooling today. Your comfort is their priority.
Hi, I'm Amanda Walden with A. Walden Insurance Group. Medicare can be overwhelming, but you don't have to figure it out alone. I've been helping people understand their Medicare options for over a decade. Medicare isn't a one-size-fits-all. I'll help you understand your coverage options so you can feel confident in your decisions. Let's find the right Medicare plan for you. Call me today or come and see me at my office located on South Chelan Avenue in Wenatchee between the YMCA and the Social Security office. I look forward to meeting you soon.
Okay, we're back. Street Talk and other stuff, talking with Heather Hobart Hill. She's the executive director and the therapist with Central Washington Veterans Counseling, which is experiencing some changes.
Correct.
So you've got a clientele group now, okay, with what is going on, what practically is going to happen with these folks that you're currently serving under the old contract system?
Fair question.
Or the contract system that about to...
Mm-hmm. So currently, if there were somebody that was allocated to the state, the DVA contract, services are continuing as normal. We are collaboratively working with the Vet Center and the VHA, because there's two siloed systems. You have the Vet Center that the contract was in and the VA Medical, to support ensuring that the transition for veterans that were on that federal contract goes as smooth as possible.
Okay.
So we have some additional funding through a nonprofit, FOB Columbia, which is based out of Grant County, that has been donated through other local veteran nonprofits, to where we're supporting those veterans through that transition, ultimately with the goal to transition care over to the federal employees themselves with the vet center.
Okay.
The vet center does have identified staff that they are planning on stationing in Wenatchee, which is going to be a huge added bonus because they'll be physically present and living in Wenatchee.
Okay.
But that transition, I think they're estimating in the next few months may occur. So hopefully that will continue to transition. And then the other piece of it is we're working on getting ready to open up the practice, and we are currently ready to open up the practice to other community members that may not have had prior military service, just civilians like you, my dear,
sure.
who have an interest in seeking care. Obviously, our focus is, or more of our area of expertise is trauma.
Sure.
So.
Sure.
Anybody that has trauma could access our care. We currently accept Premier Blue Cross, or they can come see us for a cash for fee service as well.
Now you have 2 other therapists in your office itself.
Yes.
And then you have one that works remotely.
She works out of her office, but she's here local as well, and that's Cynthia Buckley.
Okay.
So there's myself, Diane Hansen, and then Paul Stayback.
Okay, all right. And if someone contacts you now, what's the process that you're going to tell them? Is it they're going to have to wait till things fall into place, or because it sounds to me like services are going to continue to be provided and no one's going to lose care. There just may be a delay and a change in therapists. Is that?
Well, they're going to be transitioning out of our practice. There's a small handful. We're not able to support all of the veterans moving forward without this federal contract.
Right.
Nor do we want to hamstring the federal government in what they're trying to bring to our area, because that resource is needed.
Okay.
So we're helping with that transition the best that we can. And if somebody were to contact the office to engage care, we generally can get them in within a business week.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not bad at all.
No.
All right. So how many people are you actively handling right now?
Right now, we're actively, in total, probably near right under 100.
And that's for the 3 or the 4 of you. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So Diane and I are primarily full time, and then the other 2 are part time.
Okay. Are they getting their paperwork done?
That's the biggest challenge when you're working with therapists. Therapists, by and large, are people who want to connect with the individual, and sometimes that paperwork can be a challenge to track down, but we do a pretty good job of making sure it's in place.
Okay, yeah, I worked for, well, when I started, I worked for another public agency, and that's all I was doing. Half my day was paperwork with people. I wasn't helping anybody or doing anything, you know, so.
There's bureaucratic systems everywhere.
Oh, I know, it was tough, okay.
Yeah.
So how are you seeing the future of your agency?
I see the future of the agency evolving. Hopefully, if that contract is released and my partner is successful in bidding on it, then we'll continue to support veterans under that. But if not, we will evolve and be more trauma therapy focused and offer our services to the community, which we are doing right now and have been for some time. So we have always had a small portion of private pay or private insurance folks, but I suspect that's going to continue to grow to where we can diversify our funding sources so nothing is going to be catastrophic.
Okay, now, this happened with COVID, the introduction of telehealth.
Correct.
Okay, where people, and that's basically, if you're familiar with Zoom or Microsoft Meetings, it's you know, basically how therapy was done. How do you feel about telehealth versus in-person, okay?
I think that
particularly with the clientele you're working with.
When you're talking about combat veterans with combat-related PTSD, telehealth is not the most ideal modality to use.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
There's a lot of peer-reviewed journals that have studied and denoted the same, because oftentimes when you're going really deep and trying to help someone resolve the trauma work, an individual can disassociate where, you know, the lights are home but nobody's home, or lights are on, nobody's home. So being physically in the office can really be a support in helping somebody work through that, where that screen and that distance causes a disconnect. And you lose so much of what you read on a person by not having them physically in front of you, because you can curate whatever you want to be seen on the screen, but meanwhile your leg could be just going 1,000 miles an hour, which oftentimes can show a sign of nervousness or anxiety as well.
Yeah, well, see, I knew that doing police work too, working with both victims and suspects.
Right.
It would always drive me crazy that other detectives or people will call people on the phone and accept. I mean, it's so easy to put people off, and I know I do everything by telehealth now, just because I work out of my home, but I'm not working with the same intensive clientele that you're working with. But still, something like this, I mean, I can dissemble and not tell you the truth, and it'd be hard to indicate to you what's going on with me if we're not face to face.
Oh, absolutely. Or if somebody reports that they do have like significant or severe suicidal ideation, and I'm sitting, let's say in Wenatchee, I'm supporting somebody in Montana.
Sure.
I don't know the local resources, or chances are I won't know the local resources to try to get them connected to. So having somebody, a community provider, does offer a lot of additional supports that sometimes aren't considered.
Okay, so are you feeling, how are you feeling? Are you feeling optimistic that?
Oh, sure.
Okay, good.
Life is full of evolutions. We'll evolve. Yeah.
Okay, and you want to keep the same staff going?
Yes,
right? Okay.
That's the hope.
All right, you want to be able to keep your office?
That's the hope as well.
And are you still doing group work? I know that when I worked there, Diane would often say to me, I'm going to group.
Correct.
And
so as of right now, the groups, we don't have a way to fund the groups. However, there's a group that wants to continue on peer-led, so it's like a social support networking group.
Right.
And there's one group that I was pretty well into, a book called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. I'm sure you're familiar with it from your teachings and studying in our world. And I'm going to continue to support that group, and it's got anywhere between 9 and 11 people that attend bi-weekly.
Okay.
So I'll just be doing that as service through the vet hall.
Okay, if people wanted more information or if they wanted to help, what do they do? What's the process?
I think that the biggest thing that this community could benefit from is continuing to advocate with our local legislators to have the appropriate resources brought into Central Washington, and not just in Chelan and Douglas County. There's a 6-county region that doesn't have a whole lot of resources.
Right.
So advocating that they support the veterans in Central Washington appropriately with the appropriate level of care is the biggest thing that I think that the community could do as a whole. And then the next thing, if they wanted to donate to like one of the local nonprofits, whether it be the vet hall or the bunker or any of those kind of entities, they're very involved in helping veterans in our community as well. So those would be the main avenues at this point that I would encourage people to do. Advocacy is huge.
Yeah, there's a group called Tour of Duty. I'm
Yes.
sure you're familiar with them. Matter of fact, I'm taping a show with Cortland, Maine?
Yes,
Martin. Cortland Martin, yeah, this Friday. It's going to be played later in the year.
Excellent.
The schedule's coming in, but I know that they're another group that
Yes.
is doing
And they
some pretty good
support
work.
veterans through hunting trips, which is really good too. So, and then there's another one, Catching Freedom, and that's supporting through like fishing trips.
Yeah.
And what we find is a lot of times when veterans come back from entering back into the civilian world, some of their old hobbies have kind of drifted by the wayside. So this is a really awesome way for them to get their feet wet again and kind of re-spark that passion. And they're excellent nonprofits to work with.
Yeah, see, that was something that I found helpful. I had one of the veterans myself came in and said, I don't know what's wrong with me. I get up in the morning and I sit down and I watch TV, and by 11 o'clock lunchtime, I'm still watching TV.
Right.
So, I mean, a typical therapist question was, well, have you any days where that doesn't happen? He said, well, yeah, the days I go to the gym. I said, okay, we're here. I said, I'm giving you permission to watch all the TV you want to after you go to the gym. He was gone 2 weeks later. He just said, it's fine, it works fine now. I'm not watching TV at all, so.
Right.
And sometimes it's as simple as that.
Oh yeah, just a little shift in the way you're looking at things.
Yeah,
absolutely.
right.
Change in behavior.
Well, I miss those guys.
Yes.
I really do. I miss them.
It's a great group.
I mean, it's just, I think about, a couple of them told me, the Vietnam guys specifically, that I did not expect to come home. I did not. And then reading some of the books, one of them being Karl Marlantis's What It Is Like to Go to War. I've never mentioned that before.
It's an excellent book.
Incredible book, okay? Because I've never seen anybody really explain it. And in some ways, many people would find it offensive, because he talks about that wild side of people that's in all of us, that some people deny and take a lot of offense at when people admit. But one of the things he said that was very interesting was that he was never more exhilarated than when he was in the midst of a combat situation.
Right.
Something similar to that. And he knows how horrible that sounds, but he said you can't get away from it. It's just something that actually exists in us humans, and as horrible as it is that we get there.
Right.
So no, and I really appreciated his honesty. Another one was, the things they carried was very good. Then I can't remember the name of it, but it's a book I got when we went to the seminar up in Chelan, there was different stories of people both from Vietnam all the way through the sandbox wars that talked about what their present life like was now.
Right.
But and if you want to know the name of that book, email me, maddog@nwi.net, and I can tell you what it was. But Heather, thank you very much. Appreciate what you do. Thanks for your service. Thanks for what you're doing now. God's blessings on what you're doing. So
wonderful.
So hey, Street Talk and other stuff. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you being here. You have a great day. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.